Tonight on Ham Nation, we learn how to work a Meteor scatter. George teaches us how to weigh our coax. We learn about a special event featuring Katrina. And also we have some great behind-the-scenes guys. Up next.
Ham Nation is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 466, August 12th, 2020. Behind the scenes with Steve, W7UDI, and Dan, N9LVS.
Hello, everybody. It's K9EID, Bob Heil. And I have some really cool guests tonight with some very cool amateur radio stations. And you know them kind of behind the scenes, but we're going to come back to that. But Amanda is in the wings. She's got some interesting stuff for us, plus watching you guys and gals in the chat room. George has got a very interesting thing. He's going to carry on the coax stuff from last week where we put the ends on. Now he's going to tell you about how you can measure how good it is and all kinds of stuff. Things like that, that's always important. But Gordo, how you doing in Southern Cal? Is it real hot there?
Not real hot where we are, but it's supposed to get pretty warm this weekend, and a lot of brush fires have started in upper LA area.
Oh, that's not fun. Well, we're going to come back to you because I'm going to light up the spotlight here, and we usually have a club spotlight, but tonight. If Victor can light the torch and bring the old spotlight happening, I've got some people. It's good people. And we'll talk about Club Spotlight later on, too. I want your club to come and join us in the spotlight. But tonight, we just have personalities. Wonderful guys. W7UDI Steve and N9LVS. From northern Wisconsin, Dan. And these guys are behind the scenes. A lot of times people don't really know what you do. We know about your net controller, but I'm going to start off with you, Steve. I have some wonderful slides that we can show, but give us a little history about how you got going here and what you're doing on the various nets.
It's been, holy smokes, it's been a long time. Pretty much got involved probably shortly after the nets got going. Started helping Bill on the 20-meter nets. Al, as you mentioned earlier, and Mike and Dale were going along with the 40-meter net, and Bill was just kind of going by himself. So I joined in with Bill and help him out. And I don't know, 5-6 years later, here we are, continuing the tradition of having the after-show nets.
You do mainly, I guess, what's open, but a lot of times it's 40 meters, right?
I do 20 during the summer times, and then when 20 kind of peters out through the winter months, I'll go down to 75, because we used to have a 75-meter net with Cheryl years ago, but then I just decided one night, let's try 40 meters. I ran it through by Amanda, of all people, and I just was asking the question, and then she threw it out and said, "Oh, we're doing a 75-meter net." It's like, oh boy, here we go. And so off and running with it. So it keeps me active all year long.
We are so proud and to have you with us, and your help is really great. And so I know a lot of people look forward to those nets. Let's look at some of the station that you've put together, and we're going to just run through these, and you can kind of tell us what we got. What a station!
All right. Well, that's the Collins setup. That's so I have a complete S line on the bottom row and then KWM2 up on top with the 75A4. I inherited the S line from my father-in-law after he passed away and became a silent key. A little history on that S line. It was used during the Alaskan quake to pass traffic from Alaska down here to Washington State. I just fortunately married into a ham family. My wife is licensed. Her parents both had license, and most of her siblings had licenses, and so I married into a ham family, and so it was just the family decided I needed the S line and said, "Okay, here we go."
Beautiful. I have to ask you a question. What do I see over on the left side of the picture? And
that was the Easter egg that I threw in there. That is the Don Wilbanks sticker. I was wondering if you were going to pick up on it. I threw that out there as just as a little Easter egg, but that's what it is. The stickers we've had over at Dayton. So I had to throw that out. I need my Wilbanks.
Yeah, I recognized it. Yes, I did.
So this is the main station. This is what I utilize for the nets. So the left radio is a Yaesu FT1000, and then to the right is the FTDX 3000, and then the ACOM 1500 amp. Got a little mixer board off to the left, which I take audio from off the radio into one channel, and then the second channel during most of the time I do it on the 75 meter net is I utilize a diversity receiver, which typically is an SDR receiver out of Utah. So it allows me, I'll mix the two audio lines, and then I'll find which receiver I'm hearing the station I want to talk to during the net the best, and then just pot down the other receiver. And usually what ends up happening when I get fading, it'll fade into the Utah receiver, or it'll fade out of the Utah receiver into my Washington receiver. And so that's been kind of a neat little experiment I've been doing since last year. Off the Yaesu 3000, I have also out of the RX out, I have a SDR receiver, basically an RSP Play 1 at 1A, and that feeds the pan adapter that's on the right monitor, and that acts as a second receiver also. So it's good to have a few receivers to hear everybody during the nets, mainly on 75. 20 meters, I pretty much hear everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
So Gordo was asking for basically mobile stations. Well, believe it or not, I don't have a mobile rig in my personal rig. This is my work truck. This is my new work truck that I just got. My last work truck had 318,000 miles on it. So now I got a new 2020 work truck. And I spent so much time in my work vehicle that I have 3 radios in there. The top 2 are Kenwoods that are UHF VHFs, and have local repeaters and all the ham frequencies in there. And that bottom one is a Tate 220 trunk systems for the company I work for. So I spend most of my mobiling time in my work truck, and so that's where I do my mobiling from. Might as well do it. This is intriguing. So there's a couple other pictures, but we'll start. This is the finished product, and if you kind of go forward, there's one that shows like a coil of cable in it, and go. Didn't see it. Okay, well, so this was so when I did my tower number of years ago, I got this enclosure, and this came from a cell site that was decommissioned, and this was the power panel. This had all the AC in it, and it had breakers, and it had a bunch of other stuff in it. So what I ended up doing was I stripped it out till there was this middle panel, and for the longest time I just had cables coiled up, and it was just kind of a rat's nest. Well, come to COVID-19 and having to spend a fair amount of time at home, I decided to redo the box. And so I ended up punching holes and putting in through feed-throughs, SO239 feed-throughs and end connectors. And so I just put the barrels on there, and that way, and then I just cleaned up, cut the excess off, labeled all my cables, color coding it. And the box is grounded. It's tied into the ground system with the tower and the rest of the shack and everything. And put new jumpers. Inside the shack here, I have a 2x8 switch, which is computer controlled. So both Yaesus, I can select whatever antenna is available and go from there. So in the end, I'm gonna those feed throughs are gonna end up being replaced with polyphasers. But we don't have lightning issues like we do in the Midwest. So if I do have lightning, the easiest thing is just disconnect the jumpers that go into the shack and just push them back into the conduit, and now I have my isolation.
Well, it's nicely done. Very nice.
And that's So I've since then that picture I added another conduit which goes to the new tower that is next. It's my VHF tower that's next to my shop, and so it's a work in progress.
Well, it sure is a nice station. And then there's this mom.
So this is started out as a KLM KT36A XA, and it's been upgraded to the M squared KT36XA. So this is sitting on a 36 foot boom, and is going to go up and replace my TH6. So we're just waiting for the winds to kind of die down. We've been really windy this spring and summer, and the crane operator is just kind of waiting for it to, when the wind dies down. We're not talking about a lot of load here. It's only about 90 pounds, but the problem is it's a big sail, and he's, trying to be cautious about it. So when the winds die down, we'll hopefully get that up here real soon.
We hope it doesn't end up like this. What you got?
So this is my current tower. This is my current setup on the main tower. And so the TH6 is up on top at about 82 feet. We get a nice, we get hoarfrost here in the winter here in central Washington. And so it starts to coat everything. And it was one day I came out and I saw all the hoarfrost on the guy wires and the double bazookas. So I ended up taking a picture of it, and I figured this was the easiest way to show the antennas. So the 80 meter and 40 meter double bazooka is homebrew. I built it myself. One day I lost my cage dipoles because of the wind, and so you've been talking about the double bazookas, and I go, well, let me see what they're all about. And I looked up online and saw the build up, and I was like, oh, this is stupid simple. And I built the first one in like 30 minutes, the second one in 20 minutes after that, stuck them up, and they've been up there for years. And it's just I think one of the best antennas to work. I noticed right off the bat, two S unit difference in the receive side on the noise. It was just fantastic.
I wanted to let you know that this antenna right here, that will never happen to a Gordon West.
Oh, he'll have bigger and better.
Yeah.
I'm envying even the frost on the guy wires.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, kind of talking about antennas. Last winter, I ran into a problem with coax connectors. So being I work in the communications field, I use a lot of crimp-on connectors. Well, I had a failure. And I had one time with the 40 meter, and you know how we kind of cobble things together. When I first put together the tower and everything, I had a piece of feed line. It wasn't long enough, so I added another piece of feed line to get it up to the height there. So I had barrel connectors, and I've had multiple connectors on 40. I go, we're not going to have too much loss. Well, over a course of time, I had an open, and it was like, oh, geez, what's my problem? I ended up taking everything down, opening up everything with 2 feet of snow and trying to fix my connectors. But what ended up happening was that, and you got to be mindful when you're using crimp-on connectors, and I didn't think about it at the time I installed it until later when I got bit, was that they will start to work their way out of the center conductor, and that's what happened. It slipped back. Well, now I've changed to a different connector. It's a solder and crimp. So the shield is crimped, and the center conductor is soldered, and I get those connectors from DX Engineering.
Yeah, they have the best ones, that's for sure. We'll handle the microphone connector, but they handle the coax. And I do want to tell everybody that one of the things that I really appreciate when I go to Dayton, Steve and Marty are always helping me. They're my roadies. They kid about that, but I don't care.
Roadies in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we appreciate you guys helping, but wow, what a station. And then, of course, he goes and finds Sarah so he can whatever. But it's so cool to have you with us, and I hope that hope you can come back and tell us more stories when you get that biggie one. Maybe you'll take some pictures of putting that baby up.
Well, I'm gonna try to video it. Have video on it. I got a GoPro that's gonna be that's already mounted to one of my climbing helmets. So we'll have video, and then my son will take care of the ground video, and so we'll try to put a piece together on antenna replacements high up on the tower.
Terrific.
Well, I appreciate coming on. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. You guys work hard, and a lot of people don't really know who you are, and you definitely are, don't you think, Gordo?
Oh, absolutely. And will we hear you tonight leading us on?
Yes, sir. On 20 meters. Hopefully, we're going to shoot for 14,268, the usual watering hole.
Roger that. We'll see you there.
All righty, guys.
All right. Everybody has their instructions now. 14,268 after the net. If you have to wait till after Amanda gives it all going, don't cut
plus
in.
or minus. So we'll see what happens.
Well, with all of this, we have another guy that's way behind the scenes, and that happens to be Dan, N9LVS. Dan is just relentless in some of the things he does, and I'm sure glad you're with us tonight, Dan, because I want you to go through and tell us some of the things that you do after the net, because we talk about it a lot, but we really don't know exactly what you do. But first of all, let's run through a couple of shots of your station, because you also have a lot of gear and good stuff. And so tell us a little about there.
Yeah, I've got, there's the two computers that I have. One computer, like tonight I've got the actual show running on one computer, and then I got Skype running on this other computer. The computer to the left typically is my ham radio computer, which is linked up right to my ICOM 7300. Off to the left from that, there's a Kenwood 450, which I also have. I typically use that for 80 meters and 40 meters. That's on a lower tower. The 7300, that is basically 10 through 40 primarily, and that's on the larger tower. Then I've got two VHF UHF radios, and with their corresponding antennas on the towers. And then of course I've got my AL82 amplifier, and I've got all my radios are running into the mixer, not only for send, but for receive as well. I'm actually using the FX channel, goes to all the radios. I'm using the port in the back, and I basically have a little switch box there that I switch which radio gets the microphone. So makes it real handy. I don't accidentally key up on the wrong radio, because I just flip from one to the other. So even when I'm running multiple radios, if I need to transmit on one, or like if a contest, I'm running one radio for receive, one radio for transmit, I know that, the radio that I've got set for transmit, that's going to be the one that's going to get the microphone. Or if we've got severe weather here, I've got a radio that's monitoring other repeaters around for weather. And then I got the primary VHF UHF radio, so I'm not fumbling with handhelds that all or hand mics that are all looking the same.
Yeah.
That is the lower tower, and that has a Mosley Classic 33 and a Diamond 200, which isn't made anymore. VHF UHF. But the Classic 33, this is the older of the two Classic 33s. I got this antenna in 1992, and it works absolutely beautiful. The only time it's ever been down is when I move. So, and right now it's been up for 8 years and has not had one lick of trouble with it. Currently on this tower, I do have a problem with the rotor. The rotor is locked up, but we're going to take care of that here in the next week or two.
Sure. Well, that's a nice system. And then what a mobile you have.
Yeah. There's the mobile rig. The Wolf River Coil. I do beta testing for Wolf River Coil. They make these sliders on a coil. So basically, I'm good for 80 through 10 right out of the mobile, which is real handy. I spend the majority of my time in my vehicle. Like Steve, I'm on the road all the time. So yeah, we spend the majority of the time there. That is the VHF and UHF radio. And yes, I do listen to a lot of aircraft stuff as well. And then for the HF radio, I've got the Yaesu 857D, and that runs into a Ameritron ALS 1300 amplifier. And that's actually remote controlled from the front. There's the 857D, and that's right below the AM/FM radio, and makes it real handy because you can really see that display when you're going down the road. So makes it very handy. Spent a lot of time on 40, most of the time on 20. There's my camper antenna. When I go out camping, I like EA and that kind of stuff. That's another Wolf River coil, and that basically is good for 10 through 40. And then I also have a Wyndham set up for 80 meter Wyndham. Took a picture of that when I was there last year, and the picture didn't turn out very well. A little hard to see a little wire, and I don't have snow. We don't have snow in July in Wisconsin. So
you don't.
And that's the camper radio, which is a ICOM 718. And then I have my VHF and UHF radio for the camper right on top of that.
That's great. Well, tell us about what you do after, during the show and afterwards. A lot of people might not know about this, so tell everybody what we're looking at and exactly what happens and how they can take advantage of what you do.
Okay, this is the Wiki. I do the Wiki every Ham Nation. Been doing it since episode 3, so I've been around a while. The neat thing about the Wiki, and I do get a lot of emails on this, is people say, well, I know that there was a show that involved this, or I know that there was a show that was involved at that. There's a search box. Victor, if you want to switch to the one with the search box there, it'll show the search box. There's a search box there that lets you search. And like, for instance, here I typed in just YHOTY for Young Ham of the Year, and immediately came up with the episodes that were involved with that. So if ever you're looking for an episode that you're like, I know they talked about X, or I know they talked about Y, just go to the Wiki and pull up the show, or pull up the search box, and just type in Ham Nation and what you're looking to look for, and it'll pop right up. I probably get 2 or 3 emails a week of people saying, hey, I know that the show involved this, or I know the show involved that, and this is the way that I do it. I just go to the Wiki and just punch in what I want to look at, and there you go. Yeah.
How do they find the page? Where will they go to first?
Easiest place to go is just go wiki.twit.tv, and then you'll actually see the program Ham Nation. Click on Ham Nation. It'll take you to that page right there. And then you can scroll down literally to every show.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I have a lot of guys email me and say, hey, you talked about that coax connector thing or whatever. What episode is that? And I tell them, go to the wiki page and you'll find it. And they add in, and amazing, they find it. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's one of those where, you know, it's you know, you remember last week's show, but you don't remember what happened 4 months ago, you know? Yeah. I can't even do that. But
well, Dan, you're just an unsung hero. I wanted to bring you on, and we wanted to do more of this to let people know exactly what you guys do, and you do such a great job. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew more about what all you do, because you've been doing it since all of these shows for, what is it now, almost 10 years. So congrats on all of that. And God bless you for keeping us all posted on what's happening. We'll have you again. Of course, we're going to see you one of these days when they fly airplanes again, because you do great stories from there.
Yep. I do a lot of videos. I do a lot of videos on ham radio.
For your talent and your time. And Gordo, you use the wiki all the time, I bet you.
I do. People ask me, how can we learn more about your W5YI ham instructor free program? And I tell them, you know where to go, and that really helps out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 7-3 to you, Dan. Thanks for being here. 7-3.
Thanks, Dan.
7-3s.
And we'll see Steve later on the air, and that'll be super. I appreciate you guys' time tonight. So we're all grateful to what you do. And talking about people that do things, that's Gordon West. Gordo, how are you doing? Everything okay?
Everything is fine. You know, I was holding my breath on this QSO Today Ham Expo this past weekend going, I don't know how they're going to be able to pull this off. They pulled it off so well. There were so many programs, and those of us that registered have 30 days to go back and look at some of those programs or see all the many booths that were 40 plus attending. So the Ham Expo from QSO Today, huge success. Sad, Western Connecticut Ham Fest, put on by the Candlewood Amateur Radio Association, will not be taking place in 2 weekends. They're taking precautions. And a note from Dave from the chat room. Dave says, and Dave is AC2 Golf Lima, the way that he marks which coax is which and how to trace them, he hangs resistors on the tail end of the shack ones down below, 1K, 10K, 27K, 33K. And then he goes up there, and if he figures out which one is which, he just measures the resistance. Pretty darn smart. Well, before we talk about rocks and meteors, let me tell you about Friday's rock and roll. So, Victor, if you'll go ahead and roll it. Friday was the cooking contest, and there she is, Amanda, at her very best, getting things warmed up. And it was on the TWiT network, and she was humming. She was making things happen. And we hope everybody put in a good vote for Amanda. And that's a good point. I always use a little bit of wine when I'm cooking, and occasionally I'll put some in the food as well. But it was a fun time for all. So then it came time to serve the food that had, what the heck was that? Not grasshoppers, beetles, or there was something in there that I didn't even want to think about. So she said, Jeff, do you want to try my food? And Jeff said, well, let me think about that just for a second. He took a big bite out of it, and Jeff says, hey, not bad. So, Amanda, great job. Thanks for representing and mentioning Ham Nation. That was a lot of fun. Well, speaking of rocks, tonight is the night, and tomorrow morning, get your rear end gear and get out of bed about 4 o'clock in the morning local time. It's Perseids. This is our largest comet display from the Swift-Tuttle comet that we'll see all year. And it radiates to the northeast, and the very best time to see as many as 100 an hour is after the moon sets early in the morning and before the sun begins to illuminate the sky. Now, if you start, as I'm going to do, Susie and I will monitor the skies at about 10:30, 11 o'clock California time, and we could be seeing about 30, even with a little bit of moonlight coming up. What occurs is these comets will be going through a debris field, picking up some of that debris and leaving it off on a trajectory headed toward Earth. And when it gets into the rare atmosphere, beyond the F2, closer, beyond the F1, closer to us, but just right around the E layer, the incoming comets begin to heat up, begin to sizzle. Many of them are simply ice balls that will just glow and glow. Some are silica and iron. Some of those actually make it all the way down to Earth, called a meteorite. But we don't expect too many meteorites tonight or tomorrow morning, but we do expect quite a show. And it all happens up on the E layer. And as the comets are coming in, they're coming in at a pretty slow 130,000 miles per hour. Wow, that's fast. They get up to 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And what they do is they leave an ionized trail. And this ionized gases, the trail, this is what will reflect the signals on about 6 meters on up. In fact, even 10 meters on up. And as it is refracting the signal, if someone is on the same exact frequency, you'll have an opportunity to make a quick QSO. And the QSOs have to be quick, because if you listen here, this is voice on the 6 meter band a few years ago. Things go very quickly. I aired, his signal should have been S2 that I gave him, but I gave him 5x9. S2 means that it's about a 5-second burn.
QRZ, QRZ, B6 Nancy, Ocean America, QRZ. KJ7F, WB6NOA 5454, Delta Mike 13, over.
Roger, here, 5 and 9, Delta Mike, Delta November 13, over.
Okay, where are you located?
Boise, Idaho, Delta November 13.
Wow, you're pounding in 5.
Wow. So pretty impressive signal from Southern California to Boise, Idaho, but it doesn't last long. When that ionized trail begins to dissolve, you're going to lose capabilities of communications. Now, tonight, if it's overcast where you are, you can watch it live tonight on the NASA channel. And but I hope all of you will have an opportunity to monitor. Okay, now, the lowest frequency that is generally good for reflecting signals off of meteors for voice is 28,400. And 28,400 is indeed the calling frequency for the 10-meter band. And that's where you're going to find some real excitement, 28,400. Even if you don't have a HF antenna up and so on, if you've got a scanner, put it on 75 megahertz. 75 megahertz is a local or even a distant airport localizer, and those signals are beamed straight up, and they are perfect to hear. And it'll be a buzzing sound on 75 megahertz when you are attempting to hear something. But 28,400 on 10 meters is a good starting spot. We use upper sideband. And again, you keep your communications very, very short because you don't have a long time to say hi. Sometimes you'll just hear a word. Dang-a-dup, just like that. And you go, what the heck was that? That was a meteor. And it's really a thrill, even though you might not make contact to do a meteor, but just to listen to them. 50.125 is where we hang out for voice on Meteor Scatter. So that's another hot frequency to monitor tonight. And 144.200 down there on the ICOM display is another spot to monitor. And most of the time, you're just going to hear the rush of background noise. Aim your antenna on HF on either 10 meters or 6 meters in the direction of where you might expect a signal to come in up to 1,500 miles away. Do the geometry and you'll see that 1,500 miles is about the best you're going to get with a skip off of E-layer ionization that's going on. If you have a pan adapter in your radio, 10 meters and 6 meters are the principal bands where you're going to see them. This is on 10 meters, and notice that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 burns, but on 6 meters, you're only going to get maybe 2 or 3, and they're going to be definitely shorter than this one here. When I say burns, this is a station, the real strong red one, was calling CQ Meteors. He went on for 15 seconds. No, you go, CQ Meteors, this is, and give them your grid square and stand by. So the pan adapter is a great way to go if you've got a radio that supports it. Well, now we're in the digital mode, and you know you don't have to be listening to all that background static. And on the digital mode, on 10 meters, the frequency is going to be 10. Make that, the frequency is going to be on 10, 28.091 for the WSJTX digital mode for MFSK 144. Now, if you have MFSK 144 capabilities in your computer, you should be able to make some noise out there. And as you can see, we've got everything set up here, and we're going to go ahead and listen to, we're going to play it actually backwards. If you'll go back just one, please. We're going to first play the background noise that sounds like this, and then you'll hear the audio come up when it detects a frequency shift keying signal. Here's the background audio first.
This is K7JA DMO3, going to call CQ on MSK 144 mode on 50.260.
Now listen to this. There you go. Did you hear the Well, that is the DX that's coming in. In fact, we've got Chip right here on the radio today, K7JA WB6NOA. You're live. Tell them who you work today and who you plan to work tonight. Over.
Hi, Gordo, K7JA here. Well, I'm going to try to work Mongolia, but I think we're going to have to line up a lot of meteors. Well, I worked several stations today. Worked up to Washington State, Idaho, Nevada, Utah. Stations as far away as 1,000 miles and as close in as 388, I think. So there's quite a wide range of angles, and people are going to be losing a lot of sleep tonight with the shower, trying to work not only on 6 meters, but on 2 meters and 222 as well, using digital modes or even CW. I always like to make a schedule on CW with my friend K7CW up in the Seattle area. We go at about 45 words a minute on CW just because we can. But yeah, lots of activity tonight and in the morning up till about noontime local, and I should be a lot of fun. And I hope that everybody will at least give a listen to some of these watering hole frequencies, and you'll be quite surprised at everything you hear. WB6NOA, K7JA.
Okay, thanks, Chip. WB6NOA. So as you can hear live and direct, it is possible to work DX without burning up your earphones by listening to background noise. And there's a great contact that Chip made, and all the way down to the very end where KG7CW says 73 and Chip says 73. So this is fun stuff. So the plan is tonight, look for meteors, look straight up, look toward the northeast, try and do it after it's nice and dark, like you folks on the East Coast. Do it right now. And those out here on the West Coast, we'll do it about 11 o'clock our time. But you only have a couple of hours because once the moon comes up, it's going to be hard to see those whizzers. But you might get some real zingers. And they call us ping jockeys that work the DX. Thanks to Ken Newbeck for that word for his book. So that's my story for tonight. And tomorrow morning, that's the time to be on the air. Well, let's see what Dawn is going to do. Dawn, are you going to stay up all night and get up early in the morning and work for a few meteors?
I think what I might do is get up early in the morning. I don't know about the staying up all night stuff, but yeah, I was just thinking about that. I'm looking at this ICOM 7600 and I'm thinking, yeah, I could make some noise maybe on 10 and on 6. That might be a little bit fun. I don't have anything really other than FM for 2 meters and higher. But yeah, I may get up and try that. I haven't tried that. I have gotten bit by the satellite bug, which is a lot of fun. But the meteors I haven't tried yet. So that may be something that I want to do. Hey, let's go ahead and get into the news of the week, and we'll hear from a little solar update as well from Dr. T. But now first, here's Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2,231, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. As mentioned last week on Ham Nation, Newsline has lost one of its own.
Bobby Best, WX4ALA, who was the backbone of our weather and storm coverage for years, has become a silent key. He died in his sleep on Sunday, August 2nd, at the age of 49. In addition to his contributions as Newsline's staff meteorologist, Bobby enjoyed a 3-decade-long career as a professional broadcaster in his home state of Alabama. He became part of the Newsline family in 2015 as a reporter and quickly carved out a niche for himself with his specialty as a storm chaser. His ham radio career found him active in both Skywarn and Aries as he pursued his passion to report weather under challenging circumstances. His call sign WX4ALA stood for Weather for Alabama and reflected his responsibility to his calling. We here at Newsline will miss Bobby's enthusiasm, his talents, and most of all, his friendship. Rest in peace, friend.
The historic flight by 2 U.S. astronauts, one of them a radio amateur, has come to an end.
2 months ago, they made history, and on Sunday, August 2nd, they made a splash. NASA's Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken KE-5GGX, the first astronauts to fly a SpaceX Dragon commercial spacecraft, returned to Earth from the International Space Station, finishing their mission with a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico off Pensacola on the coast of Florida. The mission will be remembered for its notable firsts. The splashdown, the first for a manned capsule after a break of 45 years, also marked the first use of the Gulf as a landing site for a U.S. space crew. Bob and Doug had already achieved notoriety for being the first crew on a privately owned commercial spaceflight. The May 30th launch from Kennedy Space Center was also the first for American astronauts since the shuttle's retirement in 2011. There is still one more first yet to happen, and this one is a family first. Bob's astronaut wife, Megan MacArthur, has been chosen to be the pilot of the same SpaceX Dragon next spring. 3 amateur radio operators will be on board with her. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Skeeter Nash, N9LVS.
Things might change very soon for the way small satellites are launched.
Creators of small satellites such as CubeSats and other amateur radio satellites have their eyes on the latest iteration of a small suborbital spaceplane known as the Dawn Mark II Aurora. It is the vision of Dawn Aerospace, which operates in the Netherlands and New Zealand. Dawn describes the plane as a potential game-changer for the smallest of the small satellites and touts its ability to carry payloads between 110 and 220 pounds all the way to orbit. Smaller than a compact car, it can make several flights a day using conventional airport runways anywhere in the world, eliminating the need for vertical launches. According to the Dawn Aerospace website, the plane's first launch is to take place from the South Island of New Zealand, and it will fly to an altitude of more than 100 kilometres or 62 miles. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Skeeter Nash, N5ASH, Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's a solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
We have 3 bright regions in Earth view, and 1 is on the way. Those stories and more in the news this week. This space weather forecast is sponsored in part by Millersville University. Come get certified in broadcast space weather. Visit millersville.edu/SWEN. The sun is definitely brightening our day this week. As we take a look at the Earth view, you can see, bam, 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 there are 3 bright regions at high latitudes in Earth view. These are solar cycle 25 bright regions. In fact, one of them, region 2770, is actually a pretty large sunspot. You can actually see it in white light. And that's a good news in terms of the activity ramping up for solar cycle 25. It's also good news in terms of the solar flux, because we are boosted back up into the mid-70s, and this means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side for you amateur radio operators and emergency responders, so enjoy that. On top of that, as we take a look at the east limb, you can also see some bright fuzz. That's going to be rotating into Earth view, and it may boost the solar flux just a tiny bit, but probably not too much. We're going to have to wait until yet a larger bright region in the south rotates into Earth view in probably about 2 or 3 days. So maintain a watch for that. Meanwhile, we also have another kind of remnant coronal hole that's rotating into the Earth strike zone. This is not going to be expected to give all that much. We could get a little bit of aurora down to high latitudes, probably not much though at mid latitudes. So your aurora photographers, you're going to have to stay on your toes if you're at high latitudes to be able to catch a bit of a show. Switching to our M-flare threat meter, as you can see from the X-ray flux, we're actually been boosted a bit over flatline. Oh my goodness, we actually have a little bit of activity to report. You can see back on August 3rd, we actually had a couple B-class flares. This is from those regions that are on the Earth-facing disk, and they're continuing to kind of fizzle and fart just a little bit. And even when we hit August 8th, look at that. Oh my goodness, a C-class flare. When was the last time we saw a C-class flare? So I'm beginning to get a little bit excited. This was from region 2770, of course, and that this means that if you are an amateur radio operator or emergency responder and you hear a little sizzling on the bands or a little bit of noise, no, it's not your rig. It's just the sun beginning to wake up. Switching to our solar storm conditions, over the past week, we've been pretty much between unsettled conditions and quiet conditions, except about midday on the 2nd, wham, we got hit by this unexpected burst of fast solar wind. Now, we knew the coronal hole that was giving us that fast solar wind was coming, but we just thought it was too far north. Even the official predictions didn't expect the intensity of the fast solar wind that we got, but it was a wonderful kind of surprise because by the 3rd, look at that, it brought us to active conditions and actually gave us a little bit of aurora, clear down to mid-latitudes, and it did it again around the 4th. We got another big little burst of active conditions, which was just wonderful, a very nice surprise during this reasonably solar minimum sun. Meanwhile, after that, things kind of quieted down and we're now back to our unsettled to quiet conditions. And even though we do have a remnant coronal hole that's going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone here in the next couple days, we aren't expecting anything like the show that we got back on the 3rd and the 4th. So you aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you could expect to see a show, but you mid-latitude photographers, don't expect all that much from this one. It's probably just going to keep us at unsettled. So what else does the sun have in store for us this week? Well, this is stereo A. It's a partially far-sighted monitor. You can see here's Earth, here's the sun, and here's stereo A staring at the sun pretty much from the side. And when you take a look at the sun in stereo's view, what do you see? Bam, bam, bam. See those three regions? Those are the regions that have rotated into Earth view, and so stereo's seeing them from the side. But take a look at the east limb in stereo's view, especially in the southern hemisphere. Do you see that on the 5th? Whammo, right there. That was a solar storm that was launched. So that region that's rotating into stereo's view now is actually quite active. Meanwhile, we have yet another kind of a fuzzy region. Not too much activity there, but that could be boosting the solar flux as it continues to rotate into Earth view. And we have another region in the north. So my goodness, things are beginning to get kind of active, don't you think? And it's wonderful news because this means that the solar flux for amateur radio operators and emergency responders will continue to stay in the marginal range on Earth's day side, and we might have a potential solar storm generator here rotating into Earth view in about the next maybe 3 or 4 days. So your aurora photographers, you have something to look forward to. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are expecting that remnant coronal hole to rotate into the Earth strike zone over the next couple days and send us maybe a few pockets of fast solar wind. So at high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled conditions with up to about a 20% chance of active conditions over the next couple days, but expect that to be kind of sporadic here and there and not to last all that long. Now at mid latitudes, we're expecting normal to unsettled conditions, but only about a 10% chance of active conditions, but most likely it's going to be pretty normal. So your aurora photographers, if you're at high latitude, you could expect to get maybe a little bit of a show, maybe a bit fleeting. At mid latitude, I imagine you're just going to have to sit this one out. So the space weather this week is definitely brightening everyone's day. We have multiple bright regions on the Earth-facing disk that are boosting that solar flux into the mid-70s, and that means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. On top of that, we do have bright region 2770. This is a sunspot, and it is firing a few B and C class flares. So you radio operators, don't worry if you're hearing a little bit of whistles and farts on the bands. That is not your rig. That's just the sun waking up. So don't worry about it too much. Now, aurora photographers, well, we do have a remnant coronal hole that's rotating into the Earth strike zone, but likely it's not going to be sending much in the way of fast solar wind. It could bring aurora down to high latitudes, but you mid-latitude aurora photographers will likely need to sit this out and just kind of wait, hopefully for that other bright region that's going to be rotating into Earth view here pretty soon, and it could be firing some solar storms for us, so we'll keep some fingers crossed. Now, you GPS users, well, you know what? The solar flux is beginning to boost a little bit, and sometimes that makes things a little dicey at low latitudes, but we don't have any solar storms right now, so overall, as long as you stay away from the dawn dust terminator and, you know, just kind of think about low latitudes in and around the day side, your GPS reception should be pretty good. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Always a good report from Dr. T. Thank you so much. We're so fortunate to have you on the team. Of course, follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Skov and check out spaceweatherwoman.com. Also her YouTube channel. Just search for Tamitha Skov on YouTube. You'll find out pretty much everything you need to know, up to the second, sometimes, information about what's going on in space weather. I want to look ahead to a couple of weeks from now is kind of an infamous date down here in my part of the country, the New Orleans, Gulf Coast area, pretty much from Alabama into Texas. It will be the 15th anniversary. Hard to believe it's been 15 years now for Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. And amateur radio down here always puts on a special event station. We're going to do it again this year. It's coming up in 2 weeks, on the weekend of the storm, actually, the 28th through the 30th. K5R, they're on QRZ. You can find out everything you need to know about the special event station. We'll be on, I believe, 20 and 40. I'll be on doing some activation as well. So I'll be one of the operators for the K5R special event. Myself, including KD5PCK, we were both affected by Katrina and Rita, as well as I'm blanking on his call sign now. Gosh, A5UY, who will be handling the CW part of that. But he was affected as well in Slidell, Louisiana from Hurricane Katrina. So we're going to get on and we're going to remember Hurricane Katrina and those who lost their lives and who lost property and whose lives have forever been affected. And everything you need to know right there on the K5R QRZ page. Also, there's a K5R Facebook page. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks on that special event station. Looking forward to that. It'll be the first year that I've actually operated and activated this K5R, and I'm really looking forward to that. So hopefully we'll hear you on the air as well, and we'll exchange some stories a little bit and see what kind of memories we can dredge up. Hopefully some good ones, because a lot of good came out of that as well. When you look back on how, at least it affected my life. I'm in a better place now than I was 15 years ago. Geographically, for sure, and in other ways as well. So there was some good that came out of that storm, but it's tough to remember sometimes. But we have to remember, and especially those who lost their lives. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks on the K5R special event for Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Time to fire up the soldering iron now, I believe. We'll see what George has got going after this word from ICOM.
Get out and be active with ICOM's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. The IC705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tips of your fingers and a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds. With RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 5-watt battery operation with BP272 or 10 watts with a 13.8 volt DC supply. Modes include single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions. A large 4.3-inch color touchscreen and live band scope with waterfall. Integrated GPS with antenna and GPS logger, micro SD card for data storage. It comes standard with the HM243 speaker microphone, and it supports QRP and QRP-P operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the LC192 optional backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information about this and all the great ICOM radios. ICOM invites you to enter each week after Ham Nation to register to win some great swag prizes like t-shirts and hats by going to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation and entering. You'll also learn while you're there how you could win the monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. For August, that new radio is the ICOM ID5100A innovative 2 meter 70 centimeter mobile with touchscreen. It's a VHF, UHF, dual band, dual watch, D-Star transceiver. It has a large intuitive touchscreen interface, simultaneous FM-FM, FM-DV, or DV-DV dual watch, built-in GPS receiver. There's an optional Bluetooth board available, a downloadable Android app, a DV and FM repeater list function built in, as well as a SD memory card slot for voice and data storage. It does DV fast data mode and much, much more. So go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow ICOM America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And Don was just talking about the 15th anniversary of Katrina. Well, it's also the 15th anniversary of Amateur Logic. That weekend, I had actually been in New Orleans and came back home just before it hit and shot the first episode of Amateur Logic. And if you watch that, you will see in the background the wind blowing. I was at a tower site with our friend Jim. You remember Jim with the torch? That guy. We were out. We didn't have the torch. It was too windy because there was a hurricane coming. But that's 15th anniversary for Amateur Logic as well. And we're going to be celebrating that. But I'll tell you more coming up. Well, we'll probably talk a little bit about it next week because we've got some great stuff we're going to give away there. I'm not going to say what it is just yet because we're still nailing down the exact details, but it's going to be a nice prize package you'll want to get in on. Well, tonight, Smoking Solder, we're going to take a look at, well, I was going to say a couple, but no, we don't really look at a couple. We just look at one way to measure the length of the coax. We do, however, talk about the other old school method. Today on Smoking Solder, we're going to talk about measuring coax. Now, you can do it the old school way with a tape measure, or you can do it electronically. Today, we're going to do it with the Rig Expert AA230 Zoom antenna analyzer. We'll need to know what kind of coax we're measuring. We look here and see that it's DXE 400 Max from DX Engineering. We'll also need to know the velocity factor of this cable. A quick search on Google for DXE 400 Max lands us at DX Engineering website, and we see here that the velocity factor percentage is listed as 84. That means we'll be using the number 0.84 in our calculations. We'll connect one end of the coax to the antenna analyzer, and the other end we'll leave disconnected. We fire up the antenna analyzer, and we'll go to the RX chart function. We'll need to set the frequency. I'm choosing 4 megahertz because we want something kind of low, and we're setting the width for 8 megahertz so that we'll see 4 megahertz either side of that. Now we'll do a sweep, and we see the first resonance showing up there. That's the quarter wave resonance. Here's another one right here. We're interested in the quarter wave one. You can see the marker right there in the center. That's indicating that resonance is 3.9 megahertz. The second resonant point we're not interested in. Now we'll do a little calculating. We'll enter the speed of light, 983,571,056 feet. Remember the velocity factor? We'll multiply the speed of light in feet times 0.84. That gives us the speed of a signal through this particular coax, which happens to be 826,199,687.04 feet. We've still got a little calculating to do. Now we divide this number by the frequency in hertz, which was 3.9 megahertz. That gives us 211.84. Now there's only one final calculation to do. We take this number and we multiply it by 1/4, which is 0.25 since we were looking at the quarter wave resonance. That gives us 52.96 feet. Not bad for a 50-foot piece of coax. Not right on the money, but certainly close enough for most cases, particularly if you're not able to measure that coax with a tape measure. Now, there is a simpler way to do this without all the math if you have the AntScope software installed from Rig Expert. We'll do a scan here using the same parameters. We just hover with our cursor over the resonant point right there where you see the dotted line. That gives us all the details we need about that piece of coax without pulling out a calculator. So that's just how easy it is to measure the length of a coax using an antenna analyzer. And that was with the Rig Expert. You can do the same thing with your MFJ 269, or just about all of the antenna analyzers are capable of doing that type of measurement. Some a little easier than others. I haven't actually measured that piece of coax that's sitting right down here. I may have to roll it out and see if they gave me an extra 2 feet on there. I don't think so. I think that's just, the all the arrows combined up. Get you pretty close, though, to 50 feet. Well, let's see. I think next Bob is going to talk to us about what's going on with ham radio clubs.
Yeah, hi to everybody. Wait a minute. There we go. Hello, everybody. I wanted to let everyone know I'm getting a lot of reports from the clubs that they're meeting with Skype or Zoom, and they're looking for projects. They're looking to get more people involved. So one of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing a lot, 2 or 3 club meetings a week, plus Ham Nation. And also been doing, the other night I did an SBE meeting of radio engineers in Washington, D.C. I love sharing the science of this hobby and anything involving radio and electronics. And I'm always open to do that. So all you have to do is send me an email. It's my call at ARRL. And let's see if we can't get a little life into these times when we don't have a lot of things to do. So I think that's why the clubs have really taken to the Skype and the Skype and Zoom, because they're able to do these things. We did one a couple of weeks ago. There were 200 people in the room. So if you belong to a club, why, talk about it. See if you can't do that. Gordon West does them. George does them. Don will do them. Tama will do them. Amanda will do them. You want to learn about DX? We got the DX Queen and I think King. They happen to be together. You get a twofer. But Valerie, any of us. But if you want to send me the email, I can get them to whoever. But let's charge these clubs up. We got to get a little more activity going. And in these down times, what we're learning is that there's a lot of things that we can share between a lot of people, and your club can be better off for it. We also want to spotlight your club. All you got to do, again, send me an email and put you into the spotlight section. And we've had a lot of requests, and we'll continue on. So I just wanted to bring that forth because I get a lot of emails on it. And will you do this, and so on and so on. I've also done 2 organ concerts. How about that? A couple of organ clubs on Zoom. So we can do that too. And some of the things, before we get off the Zoom, out of the Zoom meetings, they want me to come over here and do that. So we do that too. So I don't know, George, you play the organ, George? Can you play for them? Or
No, I'm not an organist. However, I could do a drum solo for them. I have drums.
What we need to do is we need to get on Zoom, you and I, and you can be down there and I up here. We can do that. We bring in the West Coast. Gordo can play piano for us, and we can all do something. The guitar players down in South Mississippi. So, who knows what kind of emails we're going to get off of this? But hey, we're hams. We're experimenters. Nobody writes a book for what we're supposed to do. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up and have some fun with your meetings and get some substance into spending time together. So just drop me a line and we'll be there. Amanda, how are you doing? And congratulations on your big deal Saturday. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That was extremely nerve-wracking. When I opened those ingredients, and I know there's some people in the chat room that haven't seen the show, but I am going to give away some spoilers here. They were some god-awful ingredients. We had crickets, vegan eggs, a whole canned chicken. You guys, I didn't even know they could do that. A whole canned chicken. And the can was like this tall. It wasn't even in like a number 10 can. It was just this tiny, tiny whole canned chicken, which was really weird. And black garlic. So we had to make a meal out of those ingredients. And oh my gosh. I made a quesadilla, by the way. I went true to heart. That I could make a quesadilla out of anything, and I made it out of that too. So, and I made Jeff eat it. That's right. It was a blast, though. Ant and Lou were fun to hang out with, and the judges, they were. It was really a fun time. Thank you, TWiT, for giving me the opportunity to do that. I think it was a good time. All right, let's talk some ham radio, Bob. Let's continue talking about these clubs and such. I know I belong to a lot of clubs here locally. How many clubs do you belong to?
Me?
Yeah.
Actually, 2. I'm still, actually, I got to look at that again. The problem is I have life memberships on actually the Dayton Amateur Radio Club, the Granite City Club, the Egyptian Radio Club. It's one of the oldest clubs in America. And then our local club here, which is the St. Clair Radio Club, and that's right on the edge of Scott Air Force Base. But yeah, I've got those things that I attend once in a great while if I had more time. But a lot of time now I'm talking to other clubs on those nights. But I'm here and I'm still trying to help them all. And that's the
Absolutely.
thing.
And one other thing you help with is Route 66, right? So you love to get involved in that special event, and that's coming up, isn't it? I formulated that for Springfield. They're the mother road. That's where Route 66 started. In that city, the governor of Missouri and several others around the Springfield area states, and the one of the main guys was in, I think, real estate. He had this idea to do that. And then Route 66 came about later on, of course, and Springfield wasn't in the mix. I couldn't believe it. And so when I moved there, 10, 11 years ago, that was the first thing I did. So Springfield is on the map, and we're looking forward to all of those. So you want to look forward to that. And what's the date on that? When do you guys get on the air?
It was last week.
What?
I think it was last week.
Oh, no. So it's not going on anymore? Okay. This is probably the first year since I've been a general or higher that I might have missed that special event. I feel terrible. I had no idea.
I missed it, too, because I was doing several Zoom things.
I've been so busy, and go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry. Hopefully it was successful.
Oh, it always is. It always is. And we'll try to have the guys on and give us some more information about what happened for it.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to that. I'd love to hear a report on how many operators were active from where, all that good stuff. The one other thing I had for you, Bob, about your club spotlighting is give our clubs some, motivate them. Why should they contact you, and what should they come with you? What do you want to hear what they're doing? Do you want to hear about their special programs? Do you just want to hear about their club members? What really spikes your interest?
Yeah, well, what I like to do is have them send me about 6 or 8 pictures and send them to me, and we can page through them or send them to Victor. But the main thing is to get pictures of your club meetings. And yeah, I know we all go out to dinner, so every one of them has a dinner or something. That's okay. But every club has something. They have a repeater. They have some kind of contest. They might. A lot of them are have some like they'll do a run with people out in the field and see how much power they can, how less power they can do. That's been a couple of things that really cool to see how far they can go on a milliwatt and stuff like that. There's activity. There are a ton of activities that I'm hearing about, but they all have something going on. They definitely don't just sit around a room when we could have done that. And now all they got to do is share that with us, send pictures, and let us know what the officers do to keep it going. And sometimes there's some real brilliant people in these clubs, and they kind of sit in the back of the room. We want to hear from those people. So just drop me a note and let's talk. We can find out what you have to issue and give to us all, because we're listening.
Absolutely. And Bob, guess what? We're both in the clear because Route 66 special event hasn't taken place yet. September 12th through the 20th. So we're still.
Oh, good. Well,
okay. Woo.
I was actually almost in shock. Go ahead.
You're going to like this a lot, Amanda. There's a new station this year in western Kansas.
Really?
And, yep. And he's an old buddy of mine. He runs a 160-meter net on the, I think it's Monday night now, but he's been a good friend. But he took over a guy that somebody had passed on it this year, and he grabbed it. So you want to be looking for that. There's always things happening. So yeah, I'm sorry about that because I had it on my calendar. I thought, oh gosh, I missed this, but they changed it. That's right, because of the pandemic. So hey, we'll get some of these guys on here for next week or two and give us some.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. I'd love to interview some of them. Thank you, Bob, and I'm glad I get to work Route 66 still. Gordo, one quick question. If you went over this before, just tell me to move on. But you talked about working the meteor scatters and such, and I just wanted to know, we want all of our basic home ham radio operators to be able to do this. So what's the easiest setup that they'll be able to either at least hear it or also work it?
All right, we encourage everybody to first hear it, and the easiest setup would be just a vertical antenna, and probably need a 3-element beam or more for 6 meters, but for 2 meters, a vertical antenna should do well, and that will also pick up the 432 band, but pretty much the digital mode, and we had a request to give out the frequencies again for the WSJTX MSK 144. When you go to that mode on 10, it's going to select 28.091. So if you don't have the computer rolling, just dial in 28.091, turn up the volume, and when you hear that sort of waterfall sound, that could be either a local, or if it's just for a few seconds, that's a meteor. On the 6 meters, 50.260 for MSK 144, and on the 2 meter band, 144.091. So the big thing is just get out there and listen. If all you have is a scanner, 75 megahertz, or if all you have is an FM radio, tune like 103.5 or 101 point whatever, or a weather radio to an unused weather channel, and you'll begin to hear, starting right about now for those on the East Coast, little bits and pieces of incoming meteors. And don't let one of these hit you on the head. That is a meteorite. Back to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Gordo, for that info. I really look forward to it. Maybe we can turn on the radio here. Jeff and I are headed out of town. We're headed to Rangeley, Colorado. We're going to be supporting the Rally Colorado this weekend. It's probably the first event all year long here in Colorado that any Aries group has been able to support. We're abiding by COVID-19 restrictions very strictly. I'll be stuck in a comm trailer all by myself in a very small area with nobody to interfere. But the rally cars are going to go. And if you don't know what a rally is, look up those Subaru WRXs and things like that and see them on the dirt roads. That's where we're going to be at. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we have some great operators coming out to help with this event. So I'm looking forward to it. And it gets us out somewhere else, and it gets us out camping. So good times. All right, let's wrap it up here. We've got some nets I need to mention. The 20-meter net's going to be on 14,263, a little bit different frequency than you're used to, but you'll hear our wonderful Steve. Thank you, Steve, for joining us this evening. And he's such a great guy. Unfortunately, sometimes he has to cancel the nets because he gets called out to these wildfires, but he's there every Wednesday that it's possible. So we appreciate you very much, Steve. Also on 40, check us out on 7192. We've got our digital nets. We've got D-Star on 14 Charlie and DMR on 31012. So hopefully you have so many options you actually don't have an excuse to not check in. Just saying. All right, that's all I've got. Bob, you're going to wrap it up tonight?
All right, I can do that. I appreciate everybody being here. Glad to have Dan and good old Steve on. Those guys do so much work, and a lot of people don't even know who they are. And I want to make sure you do and use their time and their talent, because they're there to help us. So we'll catch you on their nets, and go look at the wiki if you need anything at all. So thanks a lot. Thanks to you, Amanda and Gordo, all your good stuff. George, you just work awfully hard putting all this stuff together. I appreciate that. Keep it coming. And Don, what can I say about you and all the people that do the weather stuff, meaning Tamitha? Okay, we'll see you next week right here. And I'll be looking for your emails. I'll look for your whatever to let me know that you want to be on Ham Nation, and we got a place for you and your club. Let me know more about it. Bye-bye for now. Be safe. We'll talk to you next week. So long.
Want more TWiT? Well, check out Hands on iOS, twit.tv/HOI, where I teach you all about iPhones, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, and so much more. If you want to get the most out of your device, then you got to check out Hands on iOS, twit.tv/HOI.